Hello, it's Soul, with what is going to be more or less what my vision of how Torghast should be paced, or time-gated, if you want to be crude. I'm just going to have this Torghast gameplay stuff running as my B-roll, so feel free to just listen. I've been pretty mixed between wanting to no-life this place and understanding that Blizzard wants it to be part of a gameplay loop that involves the rest of the expansion content, and not just have Torghast be a standalone game. For those of you who watched a lot of my videos or streams, this may sound familiar, but I wanted to put this subject in a short standalone video for exposure, so separate from the weekly or any other subject. So thank you in advance for sticking around to the end, and please, I encourage you to leave your feedback. So Torghast is supposed to be the home of the Jailer, the boogeyman of the Shadowlands, and his tower is, or it was, a place that no one could escape from, at least until we showed up and managed to break out, presumably thanks to the power of our pocket titan Azeroth, whoop-de-doo. So Torghast is this menacing sort of place that up until the Shadowlands no one has ever escaped. So who in their right mind would want to go back in? Of course, it's us, the champions of Azeroth. Meaning that one shouldn't simply be able to walk in and out of Torghast freely. That's what Blizzard is asserting here, and I'm not going to dispute that. Being able to just go in whenever we want cheapens the experience. I've heard the argument that instead of limiting our exposure to Torghast, there ought to be limits like weekly caps and loot logging, so that those of us who want to spend days locked in Torghast can, and I get it. But in my opinion, that also takes the atmosphere, the epicness of Torghast away, if we can just slide in the back door any time that we please. At the moment in the alpha, there are keys into Torghast, and we've already learned from Paul Cubitt that there will be a flow between running content in the Maw for these said keys and using them to run Torghast. To add a little bit more disruption into the mix, the Maw itself as a zone will somehow limit just how much time we spend in there. I'm speculating, but I'm guessing that it's going to be like a reverse world quest, where if you fill up the bar in Torghast after completing activities and killing mobs, you're going to be unceremoniously kicked out of the Maw. So you want to be careful with not exactly how much time you spend there, but what you spend that time doing. Whatever the case, at the moment there is a key to Torghast. Whether that's a key to get in at all, or a key to merely get into a version of Torghast that's rewarding, there are many ways that this could work, remains to be seen. But there is a key, so let's work with that for now. How do we make a game mode like Torghast that we can run pretty much whatever we want, but not be tied down by a key grind that we might not agree with? It's pretty simple actually. We compromise and do both. What I propose is for Torghast and the Maw to have two phases. I'm going to call one phase a break-in phase, where Torghast has no restrictions to dive into, just go right on in. And then there's a lockdown phase, where you will need keys to get in. And I'm using this term key very loosely. In the lockdown phase, we're going to be doing whatever it is that we're doing in the Maw, while slowly getting the attention of the Jailer, who's eventually going to kick us out. In the lockdown phase, there are guards everywhere, and we'll be doing whatever it is that we do in the Maw, like getting keys or whatnot, while slowly getting the attention of the Jailer, who will eventually kick us out. In the break-in phase, the Maw could be in total chaos, with prisoners trying to escape, who are distracting everyone, and ultimately they'll fail, and the Jailer's servants will be out in full force. Again, we'll be doing whatever that we're doing until the Jailer's guards eventually overwhelm the escapees and we're once again kicked out. It'd be a cool way to change up the gameplay every couple of days, and the uptime or the downtime of each phase can be influenced by any number of things, whether it's a set schedule, a region contribution, that doesn't really matter too much. When it comes to Torghast though, during the break-in phase, we can walk right into Torghast with no keys, no restrictions other than, of course, the gameplay restrictions in place by Blizzard, like limiting how many legendary reagents we can obtain, loot locking, and so on and so forth. During the lockdown phase, you can use keys that are earned from performing Maw activities. However, unlike a usable key that you spend for each run, using a key will unlock Torghast for you for the entire day. So think of it like this, it's not like you're using a key to open the door, you instead meet a guard outside of Torghast and bribe it to take the rest of the day off or something, leaving this side entrance open for you. Because if you think back to horrific visions, it's a pretty sucky feeling when you want to run it with your friends, but at some point one of them happens to run out of keys. In the case of Torghast, we get not keys, but more like day passes, ensuring that for the day you can run it as hard as you like. But eventually, you need to get back into the loop between it and the Maw, because that's the compromise that we're trying to nail here. With this in mind, maybe that lockdown and break-in phase, maybe it's not even needed in this case. Maybe it's just as simple as making a key unlock Torghast access for a whole day instead of a single turn. So what about the major issue or exploit of just running in, checking to see if you have a good anima power, and then leaving if it's no good? Here's my suggestion, because I've heard plenty of things, including having a deserter debuff if you happen to leave it early. So right now, a full run of 12 floors of Torghast takes roughly an hour or so, and it's probably going to go down as we start to obtain better gear or do a little bit less exploring of each and every floor. This might be beyond my technical know-how, but I would propose that when you enter Torghast, you're locked to that instance or that temporary dungeon ID of Torghast for 1 hour. So even if you happen to leave and then return, you just come back to the same version. Which also means if you join someone else's party before that hour is up, you're going to end up going into your own version of Torghast and not the version of the party leader. And also, if you run in and immediately try to reset it by dying to the Terragru, you're just going to end up back in that same version once again. Think of it like a Mythic Raid ID lock, but it only lasts for an hour. The point of this is simple, to discourage that behavior. I mean, if you think about it, you have to decide either run Torghast with this suboptimal anima power on the first floor, or you wait an hour, which is kind of almost the same thing. All of this is, of course, just a tiny bit of what Torghast is all about, but I wanted to leave some feedback and thoughts on what right now is the most important aspect, just getting in. So let me know what you think of these ideas and share them in a comment below. Feel free to spread the word if you think this is a good or even a bad idea, and otherwise, please like the video. It always helps, and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.